graffiti? Is it art? Some people say it's art, some people say it's pure vandalism. What's your view on this?
Some people think it's ugly, some people think it's bringing crime into the area, and some people think it's nice. It makes them smile when they go to work.
When you leave something in the street, you know that the day after, 1,000 and 1,000 people will see your work.
It's in your face, you know, you wake up in the morning and you see it and it's just like there straight away for the audience.
It's like a direct dialogue with the people, and it's a very democratic way. You can show your work on a public space, so you don't have the problem to show to a gallery.
I just got bored of hanging around waiting for exhibitions and doing things, so I just started to do stuff in the streets.
It's one of the reasons why we paint on the street, because if you want to go and see art, then you go to an art gallery or you go to a museum.
People do large-scale painting on canvas. It's just the same thing, but you know, the canvases are already there on the streets.
I think there's a definite different feel to it, because you've got a canvas and it's got a border. It's got it's a rectangle or it's a square. Whereas if you're on the wall, normally the wall extends further and there's different things to think about.
My project is to work with the surface, to work with colors, to work with textures.
I didn't realise there was so many other people doing this similar stuff. I didn't realise there was an art world, or a street art world.
Met a lot of really nice people and I've travelled and you know, it's sort of almost like a little family group really. Everybody sort of knows everybody.
We travel a lot. We do a lot of work around. Like we're going to LA for 10 days. First next month, and then I'll spend like a month and a half in the States.
Most of us, we are nomads. We've been traveling around a lot.
This is my first graffiti, 1981. It was very primitive, but I have to say that in Paris, at that time in 1981, it was known graffitis at all, except political graffitis. The first time I make graffitis was some rats, some small rats, you know, like a shadow, running along the sidewalk of the city. This is the first rat, maybe 1981 too. I wanted to invade Paris with my images. The first time I was introduced to graffiti art was in New York City in 1971, so a long time ago. The art started maybe at the end of the 70s with Keith Haring, people like that. They are very, very, very important because they introduce this art to the art market. I'm very influenced by the pop art more than the graffiti art. Stencil is my style, black and white, and I think it's important to work in black and white also because the life is full of colors, and if you live in a city, everything is in color. So this is my work, and this guy added the bat, and I really liked it, you know. It was kind of conversation with someone. I really like that, you know, when I have an answer to my images. So I went outside to make my graffitis because I wanted to have a connection with people, you know. I wanted to meet people and to get accepted by people more than to get famous or to get money with my art. Yeah, so we are going in Belleville. I went on court in 1990 for painting on a wall in Paris. So I stopped and now I paste posters. But I remember in the early 80s, at that time the police didn't care at all, you know. They stopped the car, they jumped from the car, they asked us, is it political? No, it's not political at all. This is art, okay, so keep on your work, it's beautiful, man. I have more a social message than a political message. Oui? Mais non, il n'est pas triste, le gars il dort. Okay. Allez, merci madame. She said, oh, your image is very sad. We prefer to have something funny. And I tried to explain to her that around here there is a lot of homeless people living in a sleeping bag like that. And we have to do something for them. It's a reflection of our society, you know, and how our society lives.
Et voilà.
Bon, y a pas de problème.
Allez, bisous.
La vie est belle.
There is good vibes in the air. I mean, here and in Madrid in general lately, it's good. There is lots of people doing things.
In Madrid, there is enough space to paint. And we're not going to get in trouble because they are going to paint over you and things like that. I think that the people who own the thing, they like it. So they quite often clean it for me. So it's kind of sweet.
We kind of have permission to paint the whole road because it's where the studio is. And we are just like, every time somebody comes from around, like this is our friend Thorsten from Barcelona, or Pelucas, or more graph writers from Madrid. We just invite people to paint and have a beer or something. Then we have the studio. This is made by Louis. Louis, 3TT man is his artist name. We were looking for a space to work, and then we saw that this was abandoned. It's been abandoned for a long, long time. This is Louis' space. Hola, hola. It was destroyed when we arrived, and we are building everything ourselves. This is my place. This is the kitchen. We're making them.
I don't have a graffiti background. I never paint a train. I don't know how to do a drawing with a spray can. I'm just a painter and I am interested in doing the street work.
Nano!
¿Qué pasa? Usually when you work with somebody else, it's usually freestyle or spontaneous and improvise. I think there's no problem. They don't really know what to do because we're painting on top of billboards. It's not painting somebody else's property. The fact that it's illegal painting in the street, I think it's really important, and it's an important element of the act, you know. Sketchbooks are kind of like what I like most of doing. I always have like 3 or 4 at the same time. I never really thought about myself as an illustrator, even though what I do is basically illustration.
I like to be on the street painting to hear all the reaction of the people who is passing through. So it's kind of social art. The important thing for me is that the people stop there and it's like a silence in the middle of the city, like an open space to their own reflection.
What exactly is art? Is it a brick? Is it a dirty nappy? Is it an oil painting? You know, there's so many questions about things, and it's the same as on the streets. It's like, who has put that over? Who's that? You know, who's doing these little things? You know, what's that thing on the top of the bus stop there?
Well, in a way, it's just the same as every other street artist, really. I mean, we're just using the street as a gallery. They are signatures in themselves, so they are a tag in themselves. So it does mean people do say, oh, the potato guy. I mean, the idea on the top of the bus shelters was a lot to do with people travelling to and from work, etc., and having the monotony as well. So I started to leave just plain potatoes with circles on them out. And then that sort of progressed into making them as noticeable as possible, but obviously they're just like a sort of a tag. The idea of making objects that then have their own natural lifespan and then they're gone has always attracted me. A lot of street art is very graphic based. I mean, I just think the more abstract sculpture was something that wasn't really covered, so my work sort of evolved in that way. There was something about suspect devices and leaving things, don't leave things unattended, and the idea then of sculpture being sort of a danger. art can be serious, but I mean, there is serious sides to it. But it's also, I've got to motivate myself to do it. I'm not really a dour person. There was a lot of speculation, people thinking that there were devices to record the buses to sort of little space aliens.
I'm writing the word exciting around the outside of 333. It started about 3 years ago, and my original intention was to write my name across 4 shutters, and I painted 2 E's underneath a nightclub, which I thought was quite funny. And I was looking at the photographs of the shutters, and I was just like, you know what, if I write my name, it's going to ruin it. My name's quite boring, graffiti's quite boring. Just by making it more abstract, by not signing my name and just random letters for no reason, it just became more interesting. You know, street art's a lot more user-friendly. The general public like it, or, you know, a percentage of them like it, whereas graffiti is graffiti for the sake of graffiti, and, you know, graffiti writers don't care what other people think. You know, you'll be walking down the road and one day, bang, something new's appeared. So I like that surprise element. I think that's fun, and, you know, you cheer people up.
Through doing graffiti, it got me through the whole thing with art college and got me interested in art. I didn't really know much about art, but then I got more into painting, I got more into sculpture, I got into printmaking, so it sort of, you know, made me aware of all these other things. It's like we've become like educated vandals. On the painting side, I work in a number of mediums, so it could be from oil to aerosol to household paint, so it's just like, but mainly, you know, I specialise in oil, but then, you know, on the street side, it's just whatever I can get my hands hold of. I think today we're going to put up something like that. Through meeting Cyclops, he was painting the skulls, I was doing the teeth, and we just jammed them together. And it's that whole thing of collaboration, you know, it's working as a collaborative team. And in the studio, you know, usually in the studio you're on your own. On the streets it's more spontaneous, you're there and you've got a limited amount of time to paint it. You know, it's sort of the excitement's there, the adventure's there, you never know how it's going to go, and the audience is there straight away. As the scene goes as a whole in London, it's getting bigger, people are getting over bigger, people are being more surprising, people are being more cheeky, people are being more imaginative. So in general, I think it's a good scene, the London scene, and, you know, it was always inspiring to me.
I think it's more about being able to show the work in a good environment, whether it's something that's suited to, you know, a dingy Dickensian basement, or whether it's something that's suited to something monumental. In the last 10 years, been putting up a lot of stuff on the streets, and now it seems like it's nice to be able to put stuff up that's going to last for, you know, slightly longer. If you do a really, really nice piece, you know, sometimes, and it gets destroyed within a few days, it's a real shame.
The gallery and the street should coexist. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. And I think the gallery offers an opportunity to artists to explore different mediums, different techniques, different finishes that they can't necessarily explore when they're working in the street.
I believe that galleries and museums and these kind of places complements the works of people who paint on the streets, you know.
As an artist that puts work in the street, you want it to last as long as you possibly can. You want it to be there for indefinitely, forever, you know, realistically. You know, by putting it in the street, that's not going to be the case.
I like the idea to have the ephemeral part of my work and something that's gonna stay for a long time.
I think the whole nature of all of this is, it's just another form of conflict. There's a conflict of people who want to turn it into commodity. There's a conflict of people who want to take things that are supposed to be free, peel them off the walls, put them onto a canvas, and then put a price tag on them.
What we do with the gallery here is that we bring people down that wouldn't necessarily be paying attention to work in the street, and then we say this artist is a street artist or a graffiti artist or uses the public space to display their work.
Well, most of the artists that I've actually got in here are friends of mine that I've worked with on the street. So it's people, not people that I go, they'd be commercially viable. It's more people who I go, I like their stuff, and also I like their attitude.
As an artist, you want to live and survive as an artist, and that's the greatest thing as an artist, to be able to fund yourself to live and continue to produce work.
It's been a dream of mine to sell my own stuff and make a living doing that. So, I've got, fantastic opportunities, and it's great. But, I kind of think we present ourselves as street artists, and to do that, you have to have a presence on the street.
I don't think street art is going to ever gain the level of credibility and seriousness which makes for long-term art market prices. See, that it's doubtful that you're going to end up with a Banksy retrospective at the Tate.
I think there's a long history of this art in the art world, and hopefully what this show helps to do is highlight the big crossover between other genres and other moments in art history and other artists in art history that have taken inspiration from the street and from ephemeral art.
I think it's really important that the museums get involved at this point in time, because they involve the people who have been doing it for a long time and know what they're doing, and they start representing these shows to the wider audience, to the wider public.
What I think is great about this show is that it gives these artists and this art form, it gives them the recognition which has maybe not been afforded them before.
It's good that this kind of art is recognized now. Obviously the street art scene is like increasing a lot, and the fact that the Tate is inviting us. For my part, I think it's good, but as long as you still work in the street.
I think one thing that's been really nice as well is with this whole process is that the public has been able to see the work going up, but to actually see something, being made in front of you. It's almost like a magic trick, but done in reverse or something.
I think that this kind of art don't need no institutions to happen. You have a whole city to work with.
Once you do take street art off the streets, it just becomes art.
What I find a bit sort of ridiculous about street art, especially when you see what kind of Banksy and some of those other kind of characters are doing, the content of their messages is so sort of obvious. They're making money out of a pose, and the pose is rebellion. But that was always the first thing that you could sell back to rebels, That's the joke. Once you've got an art market that's decided that it can sell something to people, that it's got interest from collectors, it's going to do as much as it possibly can to pump that up.
This is Banksy, behind me, 130, 140, it's 160.
The best way to describe the market is it's young, it's new, it's exciting.
190,000.
I think Banksy really kick-started the market, firstly through the high-profile media attention he's given to urban art, and secondly to the prices that he has achieved at auction and in the galleries.
Yeah, the bottom's auctions was weird because you've got this really posh set of people. You've got a really posh auctioneer and a really posh auction house, and they're selling stuff that has like coppers that are giving you the finger and gorillas with bazookas. You've bought into the brand status of Banksy or any of these other kind of up-and-coming artists. That's just the same thing as any kind of other branded lifestyle statement to do with luxury goods.
I think that the most important factor about that recent auction is that the focus shifted from just being about Banksy, and it started to bring into other artists that have been doing it as long or longer, questionably. And people started to realise that it wasn't just about one artist, it's actually about a genre or about a scene of artists.
Now it's like people are like stopping you, are you Banksy? And it's just like, you're not Banksy, are you? And it's almost like they've accepted it a lot more because of the thing that makes the world go round, money.
So Banksy is not involved in the show. This is an independent exhibition drawn from the secondary market. No doubt that the street side is a very, very important part of his output, and that's obviously what gets the press attention, and that's what gets the everyday person in the streets attention as well, because they walk past it every day, whereas they wouldn't necessarily be walking past a Knightsbridge Fine Art Gallery. And that's what's so wonderful about his work, about the accessibility of his work. But let's not forget again that there's always been a commercial side to Banksy and his contemporaries, where they've been selling works, and that whole philosophy is very different to their philosophy of when they're executing work on the street. It's always nicer to work closely with the artist, and of course in this case, neither do we represent him, nor are we so much in touch with him, because nobody really knows who he is. Everybody's buying. That's the phenomena I think that we're seeing on the commercial side. Everybody's buying.
You know, the secondary market's as old as art itself. You know, Picasso, Van Gogh sold their art or exchanged their art to live for food, for drink. So it's just a modern day rendition of that. It's interesting that this sort of debate or topic has become sort of the focus of the work that's going into the street. The question was never, oh, this is vandalism. It's like, Banksy's just done a new piece on the side of this person's wall. He's given them a £300,000 piece of work.
That's the real hype, the fact that people are spending lots of money on this stuff. Because that's really to do with people saying, well, my goodness, you know, £200,000 for that. But that was the same story with modern art all along. It's always people kind of complaining that, you know, you can't spend that kind of money on, you know, a teapot or a urinal or a shark in a tank.
Again, you sort of ask yourself questions, are we just seeing history repeat itself with a new movement come along and quite a lot of misunderstanding, and so therefore a lot of questioning?
In my opinion, the graffiti movement is the most important movement of the 20th century. There is no city in the world without graffiti.
What it's really about is that contemporary art nowadays is always seeking to address itself to the biggest audience. That's how it gets recognition, and that's how it gets its reputation. So no, I don't think it's a fad.
This urban art is a real art. It's a true art. It's a living art. You know, very living. It's not dead at all. You know, it's not like in museum when you can see painting completely dead.